Edouard Julien, will you come back again? To make room for Royce Lewis coming off the injured list, the Minnesota Twins have optioned Edouard Julien to AAA St. Paul in time for their next game Tuesday night in Yankee Stadium. On this episode, let's talk about why this happened, who's going to play second base for now, and when can we expect Julien to return, and which underperformer might be next. Let's all get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the latest Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. The Locked On Twins podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Would you like to know who we are? We'll tell you. We're the hosts. I'm Dave Brown, and across cyberspace is Brandon Warren, and we thank you for joining us, which you can also do on Twitter, which some people call X. I don't know what that's about. But my handle is @AnswerDaveBrown, and Brandon's is @Brandon_Warren, and that's Warren with an E. And he always tells people to unfollow him. I wouldn't do that, but you can't. You're free to. Brandon, how you doing?
Hey, we're doing pretty good. It's bright and sunny right now in the Twin Cities, but that's subject to change with some rain coming in. So we're going to enjoy the sun while it's here. But yeah, cloudy times are coming, but not so much for the Twins here because they're at Yankee Stadium. So it should be a fun one starting this evening.
Well, it wasn't a fun series when the Yankees came to Target Field. I feel like the Twins owe them a little payback for that. I mean, the Yankees played great, and they pitched really well. Maybe a little too well, I think. So we'll see exactly what that's about. We got Carlos Rodon going today in the first game, and that didn't work out well. But the Twins overall, they play better against left-handed pitchers. I know it doesn't seem like it because we got Rocco's platoon lineup in there, but the Twins offense actually performs better against lefties overall. So we'll see if they learn something from the last time they faced him. So as of Tuesday morning, when we record, the Twins are 33-26. They're 6 games back of the Cleveland Guardians in the AL Central and still in third place, but only 1 in the loss column behind the Kansas City Royals. So they're closing ground there, and they're not too far behind first place. They took 2 out of 3 at Houston, I believe, right?
Yep.
And now they've moved on to play the Yankees. But the big news, it's kind of two-pronged, double-pronged. There's a fork thing going on. You can't stick a fork in Royce Lewis's quad anymore. It's healthy. He's back. I guess we'll see him play at DH today. Maybe he'll be at third. I don't think we've seen a lineup yet. It's a little early for that as we record. Right. But to make room for him, the Twins sent Edouard Julien down to St. Paul. And, he's been in a slump for about 5 weeks. So it's been a while. And it's kind of a deep slump. He had an OPS of nearly 900 on the morning of April 28th. But ever since then, he's slashing. And slashing not in a way where you could cut anything, actually.
No.
169, 274, 181. The slugging percentage gets me in 95 plate appearances. So that's 14 hits, and one of which was a double, no home runs, and 36 strikeouts. Still, he was able to hit with power and walk enough to produce a league average WRC plus of 99 overall. So there's still something there to work with. That's he was still like an average major league hitter overall. He needed to work on stuff. And I think most of the issues are with breaking pitches. He's not getting the fastballs that he was before. He's hitting fastballs about the same that he was before, but his breaking pitches have tanked. So, Brandon, you kind of called this. I think you were, I wouldn't say leading the charge, but people were kind of wondering, well, what are they going to do for Royce Lewis? And your first thought was Julien's going down. And well, how do you feel about what you've done, Brandon?
Edouard Julien, you're going to ride the light rail again. By the way, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. I got to get that out there. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. So keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Yeah, Dave, it's not necessarily like he's worse than Kyle Farmer. He's worse than Manuel Margot. But he's the worst version of himself, or he's nowhere near the best version of himself. And a lot of times we get tied up in just comparing numbers, and it's not that easy. If you cut Kyle Farmer, how do you fill his role on the team, for one? And then beyond that, how do you get Edouard Julien back to who he needs to be? And sending him to St. Paul doesn't mean he's going to face a bunch of breaking balls down there that's going to completely revamp his approach to hitting them or not hitting them, but he needs a mental reset. He needs to not be at the plate taking called third strikes. And again, like, if any player was to typify the frustration of watching so many Twins hitters take called third strikes, Edouard Julien is number one with a bullet on that list. There's been guys, I think Ryan Jeffers has had a few spots where it's like, all right, well, what was he looking for there? Because I'm really not understanding from my point of view. But with Julien, I think what you need to do is rebuild the confidence. He needs to drive fastballs, and then the breaking ball stuff you kind of figure out third in that list. And I mean, it's not a crime to be not a great hitter against breaking balls. I mean, that's the goal of breaking balls, and that's the difficulty of hitting, is that those pitches are meant to make you swing and miss. It's just his, not to try to get into his brain or try to diagnose anything like that. You could just tell he was all out of sorts. And so the Twins will have to be a little creative to fill his place at second base, but I'm perfectly confident they can. And it's going to be something to watch. But if Julien goes down and hits like we know he can, it shouldn't be a long stay. With that said, the fact that this was a difficult decision because Trevor Larnach has done a better job, because some of these other youngsters, Jose Miranda comes to mind immediately, they made that discussion a lot more difficult than I think most of us had anticipated it being.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we want everybody on the 26 man roster to be clipping along at 100% efficiency and always being the best version of themselves.
Right.
But I think you're right. You touched on why this decision was made the way it was. And this is for Julien. This is for his benefit long-term, and, how that affects the greater Twins team in the long term. It wasn't so much, him instead of Farmer because of anything Farmer was doing or anything any of the other players were doing. It's something to get him right. And I don't know, the details of how you get out of slumps is something that's, really beyond me. And I think sometimes it's beyond, major league hitting coaches and players too. So, things just happen sometimes where you go into a slump and then you come out after a while because of the law of averages. And, your confidence goes up and down with it. And like you said, I would imagine that Julien's confidence is really low.
Well,
and you wanted to interject something.
Well, my question is, for all the people who are against this, what's the alternative? You're not, again, I know there's not a ready-made solution at second base, but that doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you have somebody who can play second base and you've got a couple guys who can, again, like it doesn't make any sense to send out Jose Miranda, who's been just raking lately. It doesn't make sense to send out Trevor Larnach, who, for one, plays a completely different position. For two, has also been hitting the ball really hard, even when he's been making outs. Like, all these things in time will shake out one way or another. Maybe Trevor Larnach slumps, he gets sent down, and maybe Matt Wallner comes back sometime, or Brooks Lee. There's going to be a lot of different machinations here But right now, in this moment, the best thing for the Twins and for Edouard Julien is for him to be in St. Paul. And there's literally no doubt in my mind whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it makes sense. Not only are you right, but it's really the only thing that makes sense. We can get into, I've got a couple details here about, so who plays second and who's left to do that, but it's time for a break. So let's take it and then we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump ahead. I wanted to give you a chance to lay the foundation. But first, a quick pause. When we come back, we'll do that and talk about Royce Lewis, which is obviously quite exciting. It's winner take all time. We have the finals and the Stanley Cup finals for NBA and NHL set, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own, even if your teams aren't playing. And if you're Dave or me, that's probably true. Right now, though, new customers on FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. So if you're looking at the Twins, it's Bailey Ober and Luis Gil in New York tonight. It's a 6:46 Eastern first pitch. So if you're in Central Time, God's Plains with us, it's 5:46. So make sure you got that alarm set. Got an over-under of 8. Twins are minus 134 versus the spread, but plus 152 on the money line. So if you want to get in on that action, go do it right away before those things change, because once they find out Royce Lewis is playing, those things could change quickly. But again, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
And keep in mind when thinking about the game tonight, Bailey Ober will not be pitching against the Royals, which increases the odds, if you will, of him performing well greatly.
We talk about guys who own other teams. Mike Messina used to be that guy against the Twins way back in the day. I feel like Kenny Rogers, for whatever reason, too. I felt like Roger Pavlik. I don't know if you remember Roger Pavlik.
Oh, I remember Roger Pavlik. Very
Rangers.
funny looking delivery.
Yeah, didn't he have like a really high leg kick or something?
Yeah, and it was like twisty and like
I feel like he always
blow out your elbow, Roger, and I think he did.
Right, he was always tough against us. But we don't talk about like what guys get blown up by teams. Like the Twins one year, it was a random year, like not a great year for the Twins. Absolutely owned Chris Sale. So we talk about guys who have like other teams' numbers, but we don't talk enough about, man, we don't want this guy to face this team, even though again it's more rooting for laundry than it is actually, over the years consistently.
It's a lot of different players we're talking about. That goes back to the whole thing that people have about Minnesota sports history, like things that have happened bad to Twin Cities sports teams that are baseball.
I blame
7 or 8 that are still affecting us somehow, but aren't. So
Drew Pearson pushed off though, so just so you know.
He did, but there's no,
recourse.
He's going to get that. He's going to get that call. I mean, play some defense. That's what I say.
It's Dallas, man. It's Dallas. You always get the call if you're Dallas against Minnesota.
Well, why even have a league? Why even have a team in the league if you have no chance because it's Dallas? But didn't the Vikings went to like 4 Super Bowls? I know they didn't win them, but those Super Bowls didn't have Dallas in them. So
true. No, that's accurate.
So we've gotten off track a little, but it's still fun to reminisce about 70s Vikings. So there are only 2 guys on the roster. Julien is gone. Who's going to play second? There's only 2 guys that can do it. Austin Martin's in the minors. He would be a guy, but Willie Castro and Kyle Farmer are the only guys that have, and it's mostly Farmer. This is Farmer's, he's been better in May. He hasn't been good, but he's been closer to that kind of low end. Last year he was league average as a hitter. That was a career best for him.
Which is about all you ask.
I mean, that's all you can ask for. That's the best he's ever done. I guess it would be a lot to ask him to do that again, since he's into his 30s and hadn't done it before. So, he's about 15% below league average in May, which is not great. He still hasn't hit a home run. So that's not good. But Castro is a guy who Rocco likes, I should say, to have available to play other positions.
Right.
We have Miranda for third, but there's still the outfield and other places. And Rocco likes the versatility. Everybody plays.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this means Carl Farmer is going to get a chance. This is it for Farmer, right? That
Probably.
Until whatever happens next at second base, be it Julien or Brooks Lee in the minor leagues, before one of those guys is ready, this is his chance to save his job with the Twins. Would you agree that it's a matter of weeks now that he has left?
It's a possible swan song. Yeah, there's no denying that. And I think what I'm kind of thinking about is, hey, this will be more of a time for him to get into a rhythm and playing time and all that. But I don't know that his role is going to change that much. He's going to face left-handed pitching. He's going to be a late inning defensive replacement. And if it's the case, it's maybe because Willie Castro swings over to third and Miranda comes out of the game, or it's going to be maybe a little more playing time, but I don't know that it's going to be under that many different circumstances to where you can say, yeah, he really got in a rhythm playing this many games a week, or, I don't know if I see a path other than, the old phrase, don't like it, play better. And right. I still believe there's a good ball player in there, or a useful ball player in there, or however you phrase that when you talk about one of those prototypical, almost stereotypical guys who plays everywhere, plays hard, all that stuff. The problem is the Twins may not have the luxury of waiting that out. Someone else might. I mean, if he goes to the White Sox or somebody and was to play a little better and then get traded at the deadline, I'm sure Twins fans would be like, well, what the heck? But the roster constructs or restrictions that they're within mean that they really have no choice but to kind of speed things up with Farmer. And again, it's not exactly that fast. It's June now. It's make or break time. It's go time. It's crunch time. It's all the, cliches that you can come up with. And so, he's a big league vet. He gets the deal. He knows that stuff. And at the same time too, I think the writing is on the wall. And, Willie Castro kind of had a tough start and then really picked it up. They need Farmer to do the same and make these decisions tough, because yes, it was a tough decision in some respects to send down Julien. Maybe the Twins wouldn't say it was tough, but I think for Twins fans, it was like, he's still a league average hitter. But that does too, with Julien, come back to my theory of if you're really good and then really bad, your number will represent a league average hitter, but you were never really average. You were either good or bad. You were never that middle. And that's where I think that the analysis falls short. With Farmer, now he's just kind of, you have to start as, look, man, you got a couple weeks to really get going, and that's it. If you want to pretend your numbers reset to zero and it's a whole new season, that, whatever mentally helps you prepare to turn things around. And I know he's had, I took a shower with clothes on. I did all this and that. But I will say that
with the sausage,
right? Wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh boy. Wouldn't it be kind of weird if the sausage outlived Farmer? Cause he was kind of like
I was just thinking, like, his last contribution to the Twins might very well be the lasting impact and presence of the sausage. That might be it. That might be his legacy.
Imagine that as a sentence. Imagine saying that as a sentence before the season.
But Farmer's presence on the roster, we talk about who can play second base. There's two guys. There's one guy kind of ready in the minors who could come up, Austin Martin, to play some second base. He didn't do that and I don't know if he's playing second a lot. And
they seem to look at him like an outfielder when he was up here. Am I wrong? I mean,
no, you're not. He had one appearance at second.
Yeah, to me, and I'm looking at his numbers in St. Paul just to be sure, because let's see. In St. Paul, he has played 17 innings at second base, 48 innings in center, and 34 innings in left. 4 innings total with the Twins. And last year at St. Paul, he played more second base than anywhere else. So it may not be that the sun has completely set on it, and maybe it was a matter of this is what we need right now. But I definitely got this guy's an outfielder right now vibe before he got sent out.
I just think that there is a little bit of a squeeze here because Castro is gonna have to be for Rocco's how Rocco does things. He's gonna have to be available to go other places, which means Farmer's gonna have to play, or that's kind of why I think it's kind of a big time for him, and maybe we're gonna see just a little bit more of him than we were before.
And this is also, you can say, well, Austin Martin's a better player than Kyle Farmer right now, and you may not be wrong, but if Austin Martin were to come up and struggle, you don't have Kyle Farmer to fall back on if you DFA Kyle Farmer to bring up Austin Martin, and Austin Martin perhaps struggles. And you would hope he wouldn't, based on how well he's played in St. Paul since being sent out. But that's not the world that these teams operate in. And fans do, but teams don't.
And a lot depends on how much Lewis is going to be able to play his position on defense and how soon. I think that factors in too, because that kind of enters Miranda into the picture. And where is Miranda going to get his playing time with Lewis back? I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing to me as well. Like, are they going to be doing a disservice to Miranda and not getting him enough playing time? And he's been one of their better hitters lately too. Right. So it wouldn't be great to lose him to AAA, but at the same time, I don't know if he's going to have, with all the other guys, Kirilloff has to play first and Santana has to play first. So there's not a lot of room over there. So the sooner Royce Lewis gets back and into the swing, the less, Miranda, I guess you could put him at DH, but, there's a lot of moving parts here. And we're coming up on break time, Brandon. So can you take it away?
Yeah, let's take a quick second. When we come back, we'll bring things full circle. And again, thanks too for hanging out with us after some time off. I'm finally back in the home studio and back in the feet on the ground. So we're ready to really hit this hard as the Twins play a pivotal stretch of ball here. Starting at Yankee Stadium, it's going to be Bailey Ober and Luis Heel. And by the way, make sure to check out them on Sirius XM. Just download the app, the SXM app, and search Twins. You'll get Chris and Danny on there if you want to check that out. So again, Sirius XM, it's the SXM app, and just search Twins. Super easy to find. But again, first, a word before we come back and wrap things up. Passion, drive, and patience are what bring home the winning trophy and also what keep your ride alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, whether you're looking for a supercharger, a roof rack, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride, you'll always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part will fit your ride guaranteed every time, or you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. So keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers.
We're heading down the home stretch. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to hit on a couple of points before maybe we look ahead a little bit. Just kind of a reality check. Fans were wondering, well, who, if Julien didn't go down, like who should have?
Right.
Manuel Margot. I know it doesn't seem like much, but he's slashing 346, 386, 442 against left-handed starters. So when he starts, he comes off the bench for pinch hitting. He hasn't had any good fortune, but that's when he starts, that's working against lefties. And he's effective enough on defense, kind of like with Farmer and Willie being the only guys that can play second base. If you don't have Max Kepler in right field and you don't have Margot as the backup, not that he's a great right fielder, but he's a much better right fielder than anybody else that the Twins have, unless I guess you put Buck out in right field. But, Kirilloff or Larnach or Austin Martin in the minors. So Margot is, for all of his below averageness in so many other places, he's been rising and doing what they thought he might before the season started. So I don't think he's a guy that's about to go anywhere. Some people have said like Santana, because he doesn't hit 3 home runs in 3 days all the time, so it doesn't seem like he's that hot. But he's a little below league average overall as a hitter. A hot streak maybe could get him there, which is about, I think, what they thought they were getting. He's got his splits aren't, he's not.
They're
quite
weird.
What they're not what we thought they would be against left-handed pitchers. So that's not as good as we thought he would be, but that could even out, I suppose. But he has been really good on defense at first base.
Yes,
and
he has.
That is definitely something that the Twins don't have other than him. I think Miranda probably could field the position well, but the nuances of it, Santana's got down.
Oh, yeah.
Kirilloff is not a great first baseman. So I think that's why he sticks around. Kirilloff, he's had a frustrating time hitting, but he's 80th percentile exit velocity. So something's going right there. He's kind of on an upswing, so to speak. So I don't think any of those guys are, for the next big roster move, they're not great choices to send down. I think they're contributing.
Well, and maybe people's gripe is more, was it wise to paint yourself into corners with some of these veterans having very specific roles on the team?
That's still a good question.
And good teams do that sometimes. And I don't know. The Twins used to be a team that instead of a Kyle Farmer, they'd have, their next up and comer prospect, and maybe not even a big name, just a guy and they'd cycle through guys like that. And the problem is, if you get in a free fall that way, or if that player is pressed into service, if that player is pressed into duty, that is another issue, because the baseline for a Kyle Farmer and the baseline for, whatever this nameless, faceless guy is from AAA, that's a thing that teams consider. Kyle Farmer, for all his flaws, he's taken big plate appearances. He won't let the game speed up on him. And so even a routine grounder to end a game in the 9th inning, you're a lot less worried that he's going to speed it up and miss that play like the Luis Ariz throw at the Coliseum a few years ago, where it was just a disaster from stem to stern. So there's a discussion to be had there of if it's wise to build your team that way, but you're maximizing your efficiency, and you're also protecting guys like, Matt Wallner, Trevor Larnach against lefties. Yes, you want them to get chances against lefties, but if it's a 5-4 game in the 6th inning and you have 2 guys on, this is not evaluation time. This is, let's go win this GD ball game time. And that's where these situations have to happen. And then the frustration is furthered when guys like Farmer, guys like Christian Vasquez, who's less about that role, but just more about a veteran guy who's not going anywhere, and Manuel Margot, if they're not coming through in those spots, that adds to the frustration. And yet at the same time, how much are we expecting that's too much? Because these guys are, in effect, pinch hitters as opposed to actual substitutes. And pinch hitters have a natural tendency to have their numbers cut just because they're coming in cold. So there's a lot of things that can be discussed that I've kind of circled the drain with here. But, with that said, I think that there's going to be a tough decision, maybe 2, maybe 3 here in the next month or so, because the Twins really, after this little tough stretch here, need to find a way to make up ground on the Guardians, because 6 games at this point of the year is not, the end of the be all end all, but they need to start chipping away at that. And, the best way to do that is, winning some of these tight ball games, which they have been, but need to continue to do so.
Well, we've left a few topics on the table that we'll have to get to next time.
By the way, can I say one thing?
In the future, you can say 2.5 things. What?
Did the Twins fix Aaron Judge?
No, he was.
Aaron Judge came to Minnesota in mid-May, hitting 235, 369 on base, 497 slugging. In that series against the Twins, a sweep by the Yankees, 5-1, 4-0, 5-0, he went 7 for 11. Including that series, 19 games since, he's hitting 409, not the stuff you spray on your stove, 524 on base, 1,030 slugging. So a 1,554 OPS. That's 11 homers, 8 doubles, 22 strikeouts, 17 walks. He has 27 hits and 19 have been for extra bases. I don't know that they
He's
fixed
real
it.
fine, that 409.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just I felt like that was too much not to, put out
I'll
there.
say this. I'll respond in this way. Judge is a guy, you follow closely kind of no matter who's playing him, the Twins or whatever. He was on the up. He started out really slow. He was already climbing by the time that series started. So that was a continuation of, it's not like the Twins handed him the keys. He already knew what he was doing by the time that series started.
He just found the key on his keychain.
Yes. I'll say this. Maybe don't pitch to him. Maybe that would have been a good idea, to put him on or pitch around, or don't help him out. So, if you're looking for a connection to the Twins and how Judge got as hot as he is, I would say that it is that. Just don't.
If Bailey over keeps him in the ballpark, I think that's a big W for the Twins tonight.
Well, at least it's Death Valley-ish to left field in that ballpark. So get him to aim that way at least, and maybe he won't make it over the fence.
Yeah, Death Valley-ish, but he's the Reaper.
Don't fear the Reaper. No, do the wind, the sun, and the rain. All right, so we're out of time. Brandon Warren's over there. I'm over here, Dave Brown. We thank you for joining us on the Locked On Twins podcast, and we'll probably do this again real soon. And the Twins play the Yankees tonight, and we'll see you. We'll see you.
Casilla tomorrow night.